kids, welcome back to Roto Talk.
Hey kids, welcome back. So today is this video, there's going to be two videos today. This one is about clutches to do or not to do. It's going to be a fast video, nothing that you can't get too crazy about a clutch. The other thing, we're going to be doing the skiff build, the guts today, the hardware, hopefully today. So this is something you will very rarely, if ever, see in one of my boats, a clutch. Now, this clutch is locked up on purpose. I need to get longer bolts. I lost the hardware of this thing, so I had to make spacers, and that's okay. No big deal. Ignore that for now. Like that burn? That's like 5 days old. Yeah, that was fun. So anyhow, to clutch or not to clutch? There are some pros to using a clutch, and there's some cons to using a clutch. I think if you're a sport boater, which I am, even though I've got 17 gas boats or whatever, I don't use clutches in any of them. I do not own it. They're pretty robust, and it's a lot of extra weight. That's probably, in my opinion, the biggest thing. They're so heavy, and you'll see why. But the pros to using a clutch are, you don't have to have somebody else launch your boat for you, or do like I do with the magic hand. That's really, I think, one of the biggest reasons for using a clutch. It's much easier to launch your boat. Start it in the water, walk away. Now, if you're going to use a clutch, you have to use a supplement. Okay. The nice thing about running a clutch is you can go nice. You can just start off, and if you flip, and there's some benefits to me. The reason I'm going to put a clutch in the skiff that we're building is because I had it laying around, and I want to show you guys how to use a clutch. Basically, it might even come off in a week, and I'll put a straight collet on there. It's no big deal. So there's three. The water pump we're going to use is coming tomorrow, and I've used these in other things like nitros and tugs and things like that. And it's this little 5-volt water pump, works really, really good. A lot of people, I don't have one to show you, and I'll show you the pump tomorrow when we put it in. I don't have a pulse pump to show you, but usually that's what a lot of guys will use, and it runs off of the engine, and it's a centrifugal pump. I don't like those as much as the electric ones. The electric ones really move the water. I mean, that thing can be just sitting there all day, and that head's just nice and cool. The vacuum pump ones, or the pulse pumps, they're okay. So anyhow, you've got a few parts to this, right? So what the clutch is it's a centrifugal clutch, shoe clutch. Now, hang on a minute. I was fixing my cousin's kid's scooter the other day, and I ordered a new clutch for it. But this is the same clutch that comes in RC gas cars, 5th scale, like my big gas car up there. It's a spring shoe clutch, okay? So when it's spinning around on the crank of the engine, boat clutches are different. So let's take this apart real quick. You have a few parts to these clutches. You've got spacers, you've got the centrifugal shoe, or the machined shoe, and you've got the bearing housing. Well, it's not really a bearing housing, it's clutch housing, I guess you could say. And you got the collet, obviously. Now, what's nice about the ones I use, now I'll put a link in the description to a couple clutches. I used to get them, you can get them from Dave's Discount Engines, you can get them from Gizmo, at least you used to. So here's the cage. Take this, spacers off. Remind me that fell back there. Okay, so that's all it is, just a retainer. Then you've got the cap. Now the cap, this is your clutch bell. See, this thing's cleaned out. It's got oil in it. I can see that grease. Not good. It doesn't help your clutch situation. So we'll have to throw that in the degreaser. But you got bearings in here, and that rides right there. Okay. Then you've got the shoe. All right. So in boats, oddly enough, and this bolts onto your taper tapered shaft, and you get a taper lock. So you slide this on just like a collet, just like a normal collet, and you put your bolt through it and it locks down. Once your RPMs get fast enough, these just gently expand, very little, and they grab this bell, and she takes off and spins. Okay, very, very simple. Fairly highly machined when you think about it, because this material has to spread at a certain RPM. All right, and it works really well. You hear that? So, oddly, we don't have a spring loaded one. All right. I don't really, not totally sure why you don't use the spring shoes in a boat and you have to use the machine ones. Water and springs, and maybe it rusts, and you get corrosion, and I get it. So the bell, okay, has a collet just like a normal collet. No big deal. This is where your 5/8 is going to go when you tighten up your shaft. And if it does come to pass where you don't want the clutch in there, take the damn thing off, put a normal collet on, or a pulley collet, whatever you want. That's the drawback to using this. Okay? I can't use a pulley collet on it. Now, what I could do, pulley collet for the belt starting. What you could do is you could take the pull start off and you could put a spinner on the back. But in a boat like this skiff that we're building, I really don't want a belt start only. I'd rather be able to pull it. But since I've got a lot of access to this engine, I can just choke it, fire it up, should be fine. That is the one drawback to using a clutch, because I always like to have a pulley start here. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, you guys see these on almost all my boats, unless it's a race boat like a drag boat. Even my drag boat has one. Hydroplanes and things like that. I don't use these. I use a pulley in the back. But but for all my boats, for the most part, I run one of these. Goes up front. You can see it's pretty close to the same length. Okay. And I run a pull start in the back. That way I've got the best of both worlds. I can cold engine, belt start, hot engine, nice and easy. Can't do that on a clutch, which is sad. But yeah, it's okay. No big deal. And I ordered some new screws, so I need longer screws. I think we're going to do a clutch in this boat because I want this boat to be more of a fun putt around skiff. It turned out, I got the paint job done and everything looks real nice. But I don't know. I just want one that's got water. So again, if you're like me and you're a sport racer runner and you don't have somebody to help throw your boats in, this is a great option, using a clutch. It really is. Certain boats cannot use clutches. Thunder boats, at least every one I've ever built, there's no way a clutch would work, because what happens is it goes slow and then comes up to speed. Whereas if you're not using a clutch, you just pitch the boat in and you're already idling up real fast. I did do an experiment with a Thunder boat, and I did put a clutch in because they're so huge and they're hard to launch with one hand. I put one in Einstein when I first built it, and all it did was plow water and go underwater. you just can't get the pop, right? But on a skiff, it's a bathtub with an engine in it, that's not going to be a problem at all. So I figured, what the hell? Let's go ahead and put a little water pump in there. We'll walk through that when we do the assembly tomorrow on the electronics, and then we'll also use a clutch, just something a little bit different. So again, the pros to using the clutch, you can launch a boat by yourself. I think that's about the only one. The cons, more moving parts, which is not a big deal. It's extra $50. It's a lot more weight. That's the biggest pinch, in my opinion. And you have to use a water pump. You should use a water pump. You don't have to. I mean, you can run an engine at idle a minute or two outside of water, usually, and you'll be okay. But I would use a pump. So we'll go over that in the video, but that is basically it. Okay? So until next time, kids, short one today. Keep dry side up. Bye.